Eleanor Zimmerman stood on the auction block with her 6-month-old daughter clutched to her chest, tears streaming down her face as the September sun beat down mercilessly on Fort Stockton, Texas, in 1878, and she wondered how her life had come to this desperate moment. The crowd before her was a mixture of ranchers, drifters, and opportunists, most of them looking at her with either pity or calculation. Her husband had died 3 months ago from a rattlesnake bite, leaving her with nothing but debts she could never hope to repay. The bank had taken everything, and now here she stood, her baby girl Emma clutched against her shoulder, both of them being sold to satisfy what remained of those debts. It was legal, barely, under the indentured servitude laws that still haunted the territory, and Eleanor had no family to turn to, no one to save her from this humiliation. The auctioneer, a heavy-set man with sweat staining his shirt, called out numbers while Eleanor tried to keep her breathing steady. Emma whimpered against her neck, sensing her mother's distress. Eleanor whispered soothing sounds, fighting to keep her composure. She would not break down completely, not in front of these strangers. She had to be strong for her daughter. "Do I hear $300? The auctioneer shouted. $300 for a strong young woman, good for cooking and cleaning, and the child thrown in as part of the bargain. Eleanor felt bile rise in her throat. Thrown in as part of the bargain, as if her precious Emma were nothing more than an unwanted addition to a livestock sale. She scanned the crowd, trying to gauge who might bid, who might be her new master. There was old Mr. Henderson, who owned the dry goods store, his eyes cold and calculating. There was a ranch hand she had seen around town, his gaze making her skin crawl. There was a woman in a purple dress who ran the saloon, looking at Eleanor like she was evaluating a potential working girl. $250, called out Mr. Henderson. Eleanor's heart sank. She knew Henderson worked his employees hard and he had a reputation for being cruel. $275, called another voice, rough and unfamiliar. The bidding continued, and Eleanor felt herself growing faint. The sun was so hot, and Emma was heavy in her arms, and the reality of her situation was crushing down on her with every dollar amount shouted into the air. She had been born free, had married for love, had believed her life would be filled with happiness and children and growing old with the man she adored. Instead, Thomas was dead, buried in the hard Texas ground, and she was here, being sold like property. $300, Mr. Henderson called firmly. There was a pause. Eleanor closed her eyes, preparing herself for whatever fate awaited her in Henderson's employment. It would be hard work, long hours, but at least she would have a roof over her head. At least Emma would be fed. $500, a new voice rang out, strong and clear. The crowd murmured and turned. Eleanor's eyes flew open, searching for the source of that voice. There, standing at the back of the gathered crowd, was a tall cowboy in dusty trail clothes. He had dark hair that needed cutting, a strong jaw shadowed with stubble, and eyes that even from this distance seemed to hold something different from the calculating looks of the other bidders. $500. The auctioneer repeated, clearly pleased. "Do I hear $550? Mr. Henderson frowned, looking back at the cowboy, then shook his head and stepped away. The saloon woman pursed her lips but remained silent. No one else spoke. $500 going once, the auctioneer called. Going twice, sold to the gentleman in the back. Eleanor felt her knees weaken. The cowboy made his way through the crowd, and as he got closer, she could see he was younger than she had first thought, probably only 24 or 25. He had a weathered look that came from years working outdoors, but his face was kind, his brown eyes gentle as they met hers. He stepped up to the platform and pulled out a worn leather wallet, counting out bills with steady hands. The auctioneer took the money, counted it twice, and then gestured to Eleanor. "She's all yours along with the child. Papers are inside if you want to make it official indentured servitude. 7 years standard contract." The cowboy looked at the auctioneer with something like disgust flickering across his face, but he simply nodded. "I will get the papers sorted." Then he turned to Eleanor and his expression softened. "Madam, my name is Nathan Xavier. You and your baby are coming home with me." Eleanor found herself unable to speak. She simply nodded, holding Emma tighter. Nathan offered his hand to help her down from the platform, and his grip was warm and steady. Her legs were shaking so badly she nearly stumbled, but he caught her elbow, supporting her weight without making a fuss about it. "My wagon is just over here," he said quietly. "Are you all right? Do you need water?" "Water would be kind," Eleanor managed to say, her voice hoarse. Nathan led her to a wagon hitched to 2 sturdy horses. He helped her up onto the bench seat, then retrieved a canteen from the back. Eleanor drank gratefully, then wetted her fingers to touch to Emma's lips. The baby sucked eagerly at the moisture. "She is thirsty," Nathan observed. "I am afraid I do not have anything suitable for a baby. How old is she?" 6 months, Eleanor said. "Her name is Emma. I am Eleanor Zimmerman. Mrs. Zimmerman," Nathan said with a nod of respect that surprised her. He went inside the building where the auctioneer had disappeared, returning several minutes later with papers in his hand. He climbed up onto the wagon bench beside her and clicked his tongue at the horses. They started moving, pulling away from the auction house and the gathered crowd. Eleanor sat in silence as they left Fort Stockton behind, heading northwest on a dusty road. She kept waiting for Nathan to speak, to tell her what he expected of her, what work she would be doing, where she would sleep. But he said nothing, just guided the horses with easy competence, his eyes on the road ahead. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Eleanor could stand the silence no longer. "Mr. Xavier, may I ask what your ranch is like? How many people work there?" "Just me and my brother right now," Nathan said. "We have about 200 head of cattle, some horses." "The house is not fancy, but it is solid. 2 bedrooms, a main room with a kitchen area and a sleeping loft. My brother can move to the loft and you and Emma can have the 2nd bedroom." Eleanor blinked. "Your brother will not mind." "Marcus owes me several favors," Nathan said, and there was the hint of a smile on his face. "Besides, he is rarely in the house anyway. He prefers sleeping under the stars when the weather is good." "I can earn my keep," Eleanor said quickly. "I am a good cook and I can clean and I can mend clothes and help with the garden if you have one. I will work hard, Mr. Xavier, I promise you that." Nathan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Mrs. Zimmerman, I want to be clear about something. I did not buy you to be a slave. You are not property. You are a woman who found herself in a terrible situation, and I had the means to help. I expect you to help around the ranch, yes, but as an employee, not as someone who is owned. Do you understand?" Eleanor felt tears prick her eyes again. "The papers say 7 years of indentured servitude. The papers can be burned for all I care," Nathan said flatly. "I had to sign them to make the transaction legal, but as far as I am concerned, you are free to leave whenever you want. Of course, I hope you will stay and help us, because we could truly use someone who can cook decently. Marcus and I have been surviving on beans and hardtack for too long." Eleanor stared at him, trying to understand. "You spent $500 to help me. You do not even know me." "I know you are a mother trying to protect her child," Nathan said. "I know you were crying on that platform, scared out of your mind, and I know that most of the people bidding on you had bad intentions. That was enough for me." "But $500, Eleanor whispered. "I have been saving for a while," Nathan said with a shrug. "Marcus and I do all right with the ranch. We are not rich, but we are comfortable. The money will not break us." Emma started to fuss, and Eleanor bounced her gently, humming a soft tune. Nathan glanced over, and his expression was gentle. "How long since she ate?" he asked. "This morning," Eleanor admitted. "I have been nursing her, but with the stress, I do not know if I have enough milk right now." "We will be home in about 2 hours," Nathan said. "Once we get there, you can rest and feed her properly. I think we have some canned milk if you need to supplement." "Thank you," Eleanor said softly. They rode in silence for a while longer, but it was a more comfortable silence now. Eleanor studied Nathan from the corner of her eye, trying to understand this man who had just turned her world upside down. He was handsome in a rugged way, with strong features and capable hands. He sat the wagon seat with the easy posture of someone who spent most of his life on horseback. His clothes were worn but clean, and he wore a gun belt with a well-maintained revolver. "May I ask about your family?" Eleanor ventured. "Not much to tell," Nathan said. "My parents died when I was 18, Marcus was 16. We took what little we had and came to Texas, bought land cheap, and started building a herd. That was 6 years ago. It has been hard work, but we have done well for ourselves." "No wife?" Eleanor asked, then immediately felt her face flush. "I apologize, that was forward of me." "No wife," Nathan confirmed, seeming unbothered by the question. "No time for courting, really. Between the ranch work and trying to keep Marcus out of trouble, I have been busy. What about you, if you do not mind my asking? The auctioneer mentioned debts from your late husband." Eleanor took a deep breath. Thomas was a good man, but he was not good with money. He kept borrowing to invest in schemes that never paid off. When he died from the snake bite, I discovered just how much debt we had accumulated. The bank took our house, our belongings, everything. I had nothing left to sell except my labor, and I had no one to turn to. My parents are both deceased, and I have no siblings. I was desperate. "You do not have to be desperate anymore," Nathan said firmly. "You and Emma will be safe on the ranch, I give you my word." Eleanor felt something loosen in her chest, some tight knot of fear that had been strangling her for months. She did not know if she could trust this stranger completely, but his words felt genuine, and right now, that was enough. The landscape rolled past, all brown earth and sparse vegetation, occasionally broken by stands of mesquite trees. The sky was achingly blue, and despite the heat, there was a wild beauty to this land. Eleanor had always lived in town, first in Tennessee where she was born, then in Fort Stockton after marrying Thomas. The openness of the range was both frightening and exhilarating. Emma dozed against her shoulder, her little body warm and trusting. Eleanor kissed the top of her head, breathing in that sweet baby smell. Whatever happened next, at least her daughter was safe. That was all that truly mattered. As they crested a low hill, Nathan pointed ahead. "There, that is home." Eleanor looked and saw a sturdy wooden house with a covered porch, several outbuildings, and a corral with horses. It was not large, but it looked well maintained, and there was a windmill turning lazily in the breeze, pumping water into a trough. Smoke rose from a chimney, suggesting someone was already there. "That will be Marcus," Nathan said. "I sent him ahead this morning to get the house ready." They pulled up in front of the house, and a young man emerged, wiping his hands on a rag. He looked enough like Nathan that the family resemblance was obvious, but he was leaner, with a more angular face and lighter brown hair. "You actually did it," Marcus said, staring at Eleanor and Emma with wide eyes. "Mind your manners, Marcus," Nathan said, jumping down from the wagon. "Mrs. Zimmerman, this is my brother Marcus. Marcus, this is Mrs. Zimmerman and her daughter Emma." "Madam," Marcus said, touching the brim of his hat. "Welcome to the ranch." Nathan came around and helped Eleanor down, steadying her when her feet touched the ground. She had been sitting so long she felt stiff and sore. "Let me show you to your room," Nathan said. "You can rest and get Emma settled." Eleanor followed him into the house, Marcus trailing behind. The interior was dim after the bright sunlight, but as her eyes adjusted, she could see it was clean and simply furnished. There was a large main room with a stone fireplace, a sturdy table with chairs, and a kitchen area with a cast-iron stove. 2 doors led off the main room, presumably to the bedrooms, and a ladder in the corner led up to a loft space. Nathan opened one of the doors. "This is for you and Emma. I changed the bedding this morning and there is a wash basin on the stand. Not fancy, but it is clean." Eleanor stepped into the small room and felt tears threaten again. There was a real bed with a quilt, a washstand, a chest of drawers, and even a small crib that looked hastily assembled. "Marcus made the crib," Nathan said. "He is handy with wood." "This is more than I could have hoped for," Eleanor said, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you, both of you." "I will let you get settled," Nathan said. "Call out if you need anything." He closed the door gently, leaving Eleanor alone with her daughter. She sank onto the bed, which was blissfully soft after the hard wagon seat, and finally let herself cry. They were tears of relief, exhaustion, fear, and gratitude all mixed together. Emma woke and started crying too, and Eleanor unbuttoned her dress to nurse her, whispering soothing words. "We are safe now, sweet girl," she murmured. "We are going to be all right." After Emma had nursed and fallen back asleep, Eleanor laid her carefully in the crib. It was well made, with smooth edges and a little mattress stuffed with what felt like sweet-smelling hay. Eleanor freshened up at the wash basin, trying to make herself presentable. Her dress was wrinkled and stained from travel, her hair was falling out of its pins, and she looked as worn as she felt. But she could not hide away in this room forever. She needed to face her new life. She emerged to find Nathan and Marcus sitting at the table, talking in low voices. They both looked up when she appeared. "Is Emma settled?" Nathan asked. "She is sleeping," Eleanor confirmed. "I cannot thank you enough for the crib, Mr. Xavier," she said to Marcus. "Just Marcus is fine, madam," he said with a shy smile. "And it was nothing. Glad to help." "Are you hungry?" Nathan asked. "We have some stew that Marcus made. It is not great, but it is edible." Eleanor's stomach growled in response, and both men chuckled. She found herself blushing but nodded. Nathan ladled stew into a bowl and set it before her at the table, along with a chunk of bread that was only slightly stale. The stew was indeed not great, heavy on beans and light on flavor, but Eleanor was hungry enough that it tasted wonderful. She ate steadily, aware of both men watching her. "Tomorrow I can start cooking," she offered, "if you show me what supplies you have." "That would be appreciated," Nathan said. "Like I mentioned, Marcus and I are not exactly skilled in the kitchen. We keep ourselves fed, but that is about all." "I am a good cook," Eleanor said. "My mother taught me well. I can make do with basic ingredients." "We have a good supply," Marcus said. "Nathan always makes sure we are stocked up. We just lack the skill to turn it into anything decent." They talked for a while longer, discussing the ranch operations. Nathan and Marcus ran about 200 head of cattle, which they grazed on rangeland they leased from the state. They had a small garden that had been neglected, some chickens that provided eggs, and horses they bred and sold occasionally. It was hard work, but they were building something sustainable. "I can help with the garden," Eleanor offered. "And I know how to tend chickens. I can also do laundry and mending, whatever you need." "We appreciate that," Nathan said, "but please do not feel you have to work yourself to death. You have been through a lot, and you have a baby to care for. We will figure out a balance." Eleanor nodded, though she was determined to prove her worth. These men had saved her, and she would not be a burden. As evening approached, Marcus excused himself, saying he was going to check on the horses. Nathan remained at the table and an awkward silence fell. "Mr. Xavier," Eleanor began. "Nathan, please," he interrupted gently. "Mr. Xavier makes me feel old." "Nathan," Eleanor corrected. "I want you to know that I understand the situation I am in. You paid for me, legally speaking, and I am grateful that you are treating me with kindness. But I do not want there to be any misunderstanding. I will work hard and I will not complain, but I cannot be anything other than an employee. I hope you understand." Nathan's brow furrowed. "Mrs. Zimmerman, I am not looking for anything beyond help with the ranch. When I saw you on that platform, I saw someone in trouble, someone who needed help. That is all this is. I expect nothing from you except honest work, and I will treat you with respect. I hope in time you will believe that." Eleanor searched his face and found only sincerity there. She nodded slowly. "I am sorry. I have learned to be cautious." "No apology needed," Nathan said. "Trust has to be earned. I understand that." Emma's cry echoed from the bedroom, and Eleanor excused herself to tend to her daughter. She changed Emma's diaper, using cloths she had managed to keep through all her troubles, and walked her around the small room until she settled. As she paced, she found herself thinking about Nathan's words, the gentleness in his eyes, the genuine concern in his voice. Over the next several weeks, Eleanor settled into a routine at the ranch. She rose early each morning, fed and changed Emma, and then started breakfast for Nathan and Marcus. The men ate heartily, grateful for food that actually had flavor. After breakfast, Nathan would head out to check on the cattle or mend fences, while Marcus worked with the horses or handled other ranch chores. Eleanor would clean the house, tend the garden, and care for Emma, who was growing more alert and interactive every day. The work was hard, but it was honest, and Eleanor found satisfaction in it. She coaxed the neglected garden back to life, harvesting late-season vegetables. She organized the house, scrubbing away years of bachelor living. She mended clothes that had been held together with hope and stubborn will. And she cooked, filling the house with smells that made both men smile when they came in tired and hungry. Nathan was true to his word. He treated her with unfailing respect, never making her feel like property or a servant. He asked her opinion on things, listened when she spoke, and made sure she had everything she needed. Marcus was equally respectful, though more reserved. He seemed slightly in awe of having a woman and baby in the house, often watching Emma with fascination when he thought no one was looking. As September turned to October, the heat broke slightly, and the evenings became pleasant. They started eating supper on the porch, watching the sun set over the rangeland. Emma would sit on Eleanor's lap, grabbing at everything within reach, making the men laugh with her antics. One evening, after Marcus had excused himself to tend to a mare that was close to foaling, Nathan and Eleanor remained on the porch. Emma had fallen asleep in Eleanor's arms, her little face peaceful. "She is growing so fast," Nathan observed. "I swear she is twice the size she was when you arrived." "Babies do that," Eleanor said with a soft smile. "One day they are tiny bundles, the next they are getting into everything." "Do you think about her father?" Nathan asked quietly. "I am sorry if that is too personal." "I think about Thomas every day," Eleanor admitted. "He was not perfect, but he loved us. He tried to provide for us. He just made poor decisions, and in the end, those decisions cost him his life and nearly cost me everything." "I am sorry you went through that," Nathan said. "I am learning that sometimes the worst moments lead to unexpected blessings," Eleanor said, surprising herself with the admission. "If Thomas had not died, if I had not been auctioned, I would never have met you, and you have been kinder to me than I had any right to expect." Nathan was quiet for a moment, looking out at the darkening sky. I saw my mother struggle after my father died. She was strong, but the world is not kind to women alone. She did everything she could to keep us fed and safe, and it wore her down until she just gave out. I swore then that if I ever had the chance to help a woman in a similar situation, I would. When I saw you on that platform, it felt like the universe was giving me that chance. Eleanor felt her heart squeeze. Your mother would be proud of the man you have become. I hope so, Nathan said softly. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the night sounds of the ranch. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote called and the horses in the corral shifted and snorted. Eleanor felt something she had not felt in a long time: peace. As the weeks continued to pass, Eleanor began to notice things about Nathan that made her pulse quicken in ways she had not expected. The way he was gentle with Emma, making silly faces to get her to smile. The way he always made sure Eleanor had a chair before he sat down. The way he rolled up his sleeves when he washed up before supper, revealing strong forearms. The sound of his laugh when Marcus said something ridiculous. She tried to push these feelings away. It was too soon after Thomas's death to be thinking about another man. It was inappropriate, given that Nathan was technically her employer. It was dangerous to let herself develop feelings when she was so vulnerable and dependent. But the heart does not listen to logic, and Eleanor found herself looking forward to the moments when Nathan was near. The mornings when he would come into the kitchen and compliment her cooking. The evenings when they would talk on the porch. The Sundays when they would all pile into the wagon and ride to Fort Stockton for church, and Nathan would help her down with his hand warm on hers. Nathan seemed to be undergoing his own changes. He started taking more care with his appearance, trimming his hair and shaving more regularly. He brought her small gifts from town: a length of fabric for a new dress, a rattle for Emma, a book he thought she might enjoy. He found excuses to be near her, helping carry water, fixing a squeaky door hinge in her room, building a better chicken coop. Marcus noticed, of course. One day in late October, Eleanor overheard the brothers talking in the barn. "You are sweet on her," Marcus said bluntly. "Keep your voice down," Nathan hissed. "Why, it is obvious. You moon over her like a lovesick calf." "I do not moon," Nathan protested. "You absolutely moon," Marcus countered. "And I think she likes you too, for what it is worth." "It has only been 2 months since I brought her here," Nathan said. 2 months since her husband died. It would be wrong to pursue anything. "Life is short, brother," Marcus said. "You of all people should know that. If you care about her, you should tell her. The worst she can say is no. Or she could feel pressured because I am technically her employer," Nathan said. "She might feel like she has to say yes to keep her place here. I will not put her in that position." Eleanor quietly moved away from the barn, her heart pounding, so Nathan did have feelings for her. The knowledge filled her with both joy and confusion. She had feelings for him too, stronger than she wanted to admit, but was it too soon? Was she betraying Thomas's memory? That night, after Emma was asleep, Eleanor sat on her bed and let herself really examine her feelings. She had loved Thomas, truly she had. But their love had been young and impulsive, built on attraction and dreams rather than deep understanding. What she was feeling for Nathan was different. It was built on respect, admiration, gratitude, and genuine affection. She loved the man he was, the values he held, the kindness he showed. And Thomas was gone. She would always carry his memory, but she was still alive and she deserved to live, to find happiness again if it was offered. Thomas would have wanted that for her. He had been a good man at heart, despite his flaws, and he would have wanted Emma to grow up with a father figure, would have wanted Eleanor to be cared for. The decision settled in her heart. She would let herself feel what she felt. She would not rush anything, but she would not deny her growing love for Nathan either. The opportunity came sooner than expected. In early November, a cold snap hit, unusual for Texas but not unheard of. The temperature dropped, and a bitter wind swept across the range. Nathan and Marcus worked long hours making sure the cattle were all right, repairing shelters, and moving the herd to more protected areas. One evening, Nathan came in late, exhausted and chilled. Eleanor had kept supper warm, and she served him while Marcus had already gone to bed in the loft, worn out from the day's work. "You should eat and get warm," Eleanor said, pouring him coffee. "Thank you," Nathan said, his voice hoarse with fatigue. "I do not know what we would do without you, Eleanor." It was the first time he had used her given name without the title, and the intimacy of it made her breath catch. She sat down across from him, watching him eat. "Nathan, can I ask you something?" "Of course," he said, looking up. "Why did you really bid on me that day? The truth." Nathan set down his fork, his eyes searching hers. "I told you the truth. I saw someone who needed help. But it was more than that, was it not?" Eleanor pressed gently. $500 is a lot of money for a simple good deed." Nathan was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "When I saw you standing there with Emma, you looked so scared but also so strong. You were not crying for yourself, you were trying to protect your daughter. And I thought, that is the kind of woman I would want in my life. Someone brave, someone loving, someone worth knowing. So yes, I helped because you needed it, but also because I wanted to know you. Is that wrong?" "No," Eleanor said softly. "It is not wrong. I am glad you did. I am glad I am here. Are you?" Nathan asked, his eyes intense. "Truly." "Truly," Eleanor confirmed. "Nathan, I know it has not been long since Thomas died, and I know I should probably wait longer before even thinking about these things, but I have to be honest. You have been so good to me, so kind and respectful and caring. You have made me feel safe for the first time in years. And somewhere along the way I started having feelings for you, feelings that are probably inappropriate, but they are real." Nathan stood slowly, coming around the table. He knelt beside her chair, taking her hand gently. "Eleanor, there is nothing inappropriate about what you are feeling because I feel it too. I have been trying to give you time, trying to be respectful, but every day I fall a little more in love with you. You are remarkable. You are strong and capable and beautiful, and I know I have no right to ask this so soon, but may I court you properly? May I try to win your heart?" Eleanor felt tears spill down her cheeks, but they were happy tears. "You have already won my heart, Nathan. But yes, I would like to be courted properly. I want to do this right." Nathan's face broke into a wide smile, and he lifted her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles gently. "Then I will court you like you deserve, Eleanor. I will show you every day how much you mean to me." From that night on, things changed between them, but in the best possible way. Nathan courted Eleanor with old-fashioned sweetness. He brought her wildflowers from the range. He carved toys for Emma. He read to Eleanor in the evenings from books they both enjoyed. He held her hand when they sat on the porch. He asked her about her dreams, her fears, her hopes for the future. Eleanor blossomed under this attention. She laughed more freely, smiled more often. She started wearing the dress she had made from the fabric Nathan had bought her, a pretty blue that matched her eyes. She let herself imagine a future, not just surviving but truly living. Marcus watched this courtship with amusement and approval. "About time you two admitted it," he said one day, making them both blush. Christmas came, and they made it special despite their limited resources. Eleanor cooked a feast with a chicken from their coop and vegetables from the garden she had preserved. Nathan gave her a beautiful shawl he had bought in town, soft and warm. Eleanor gave him a shirt she had sewn, perfectly fitted to his frame. Together, they gave Emma a wooden doll that Marcus had carved and Eleanor had dressed. As they sat around the table, Eleanor felt overwhelmed with gratitude. A few months ago, she had been standing on an auction block, terrified and alone. Now she was surrounded by warmth and love, part of a family that was choosing each other every single day. In late January of 1879, Nathan asked Eleanor to take a walk with him. Marcus agreed to watch Emma, who was now 9 months old and crawling everywhere, getting into everything she could reach. Nathan and Eleanor bundled up against the cool air and walked out toward a small rise that overlooked the ranch. When they reached the top, Nathan turned to face Eleanor, taking both her hands in his. "Eleanor, I know it has only been 5 months since I brought you home. I know in some ways that is not very long, but I also know that in those 5 months you have become the most important person in my life. You and Emma both. I cannot imagine waking up without you here. I cannot imagine eating a meal you did not cook. I cannot imagine my life without your smile, your laugh, your strength. I love you, Eleanor. I love you with everything I am. And I know I am asking a lot, but would you consider becoming my wife? Not because you feel obligated, but because you want to build a life with me." Eleanor's heart was so full she could barely speak. "Nathan, I love you too. I love your kindness, your integrity, the way you treat me like I matter. The way you treat Emma like she is already yours. Yes, I will marry you. Nothing would make me happier." Nathan pulled her into his arms, kissing her with a tenderness that made her knees weak. She kissed him back, pouring all her love and hope into that moment. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathless and grinning like fools. "We will do it right," Nathan said. "I will talk to the preacher. We will have a proper wedding. I want everyone to know that you are my choice, my love, my wife." They were married in early February in the small church in Fort Stockton. Eleanor wore a simple white dress that she had sewn with help from the preacher's wife. Nathan wore his best suit, looking handsome and nervous. Marcus stood up as best man, and the preacher's wife held Emma during the ceremony. When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, Nathan kissed Eleanor with such love that several people in attendance wiped away tears. Eleanor kissed him back, sealing this new chapter of their lives with joy and hope. The small gathering afterward was filled with well wishes. Some of the people who had been at the auction that terrible day in September looked at Eleanor with new eyes, seeing her now as Nathan's beloved wife rather than a desperate woman being sold. Mr. Henderson even approached, tipping his hat. "Mrs. Xavier, I wish you all happiness," he said, and Eleanor could see he meant it. "Thank you, Mr. Henderson," she replied graciously. That night, Marcus made himself scarce, riding out to check on a distant part of the range with plans to camp overnight. Nathan carried Eleanor over the threshold of their home, making her laugh. Emma was already asleep in her crib, worn out from the excitement of the day. Nathan and Eleanor stood in the main room, suddenly shy with each other despite their months of courtship. "I love you," Nathan said softly. "I will spend every day trying to make you happy." "You already make me happy," Eleanor replied, "just by being who you are." He kissed her again, and this time there was a new depth to it, a promise of the life they would build together. Eleanor felt cherished, desired, loved in a way she had never experienced before. When Nathan led her to their bedroom, the one that had been his alone but was now theirs together, she went willingly, joyfully, ready to fully become his wife in every way. Their wedding night was tender and passionate, full of whispered words and gentle discoveries. Nathan treated Eleanor like she was precious, and she responded with all the love in her heart. They fell asleep wrapped in each other's arms, and Eleanor knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she belonged. The months that followed were the happiest of Eleanor's life. She and Nathan worked the ranch together, partners in every sense. Emma thrived, taking her first steps in March, saying her first words in April. She called Nathan Papa, And the first time she did, he cried, scooping her up and holding her like she was the most precious thing in the world. "She is ours," he whispered to Eleanor that night. "In every way that matters, she is our daughter." "She is," Eleanor agreed. "And she is lucky to have you as her father." In May, Eleanor realized she was pregnant. She told Nathan on a warm evening as they sat on the porch, watching Emma chase a butterfly in the yard. "Nathan, we are going to have another baby," she said, taking his hand and placing it on her still flat stomach. Nathan's face went through a series of expressions: shock, joy, wonder, and then pure happiness. "Truly, we are having a baby, truly," Eleanor confirmed, laughing at his reaction. Nathan let out a whoop of joy, startling Emma and making Marcus come running from the barn, hand on his gun, thinking there was trouble. When Marcus learned the news, he grinned and clapped Nathan on the back. "About time," he said. "This place could use more young ones running around." The pregnancy progressed smoothly. Eleanor felt well, and Nathan was attentive to the point of being overprotective. He would not let her lift anything heavy, insisted she rest frequently, and worried constantly that she was doing too much. "Nathan, I am pregnant, not fragile," Eleanor would remind him with amusement. "Women have been doing this for all of time." "But you are my wife," Nathan would counter, "and I am allowed to worry." Emma seemed to sense something was changing. She became more clingy with Eleanor, often laying her head against her mother's growing belly. Eleanor would tell her about the baby brother or sister who was coming, and Emma would babble back in her own language, making Eleanor laugh. In December of 1879, during the first cold snap of winter, Eleanor went into labor. Nathan sent Marcus racing to town for the midwife while he stayed with Eleanor, holding her hand and trying not to panic. The midwife arrived in time, and after several hours of labor, Eleanor delivered a healthy baby boy. "He is perfect," Nathan breathed, holding his son for the first time. "Eleanor, he is perfect." "He looks like you," Eleanor said tiredly but happily. "What should we name him?" They had discussed names but had not settled on one. Nathan looked down at his son, then at Eleanor, then at Emma, who was peeking around Marcus's leg, curious about the crying baby. "What about Samuel?" Nathan suggested. "After my father, Samuel Xavier." "Samuel," Eleanor repeated. "I like it." "Hello, Samuel. Welcome to the world, sweet boy." Emma toddled over, wanting to see the baby. Nathan carefully sat on the bed, letting Emma look at her new brother. She touched his tiny hand with wonder, and when Samuel gripped her finger, she laughed with delight. "Baby," Emma pronounced clearly, one of her new words. "Yes, baby," Eleanor agreed. "Your baby brother." The household adjusted to having a newborn. Samuel was a good baby, nursing well and sleeping in manageable stretches. Emma was surprisingly gentle with him, often bringing him toys and patting his head. Nathan was besotted with both his children, spending every free moment holding Samuel or playing with Emma. Marcus, watching this growing family, announced one evening that he was thinking about finding his own place. "Not far," he assured them quickly. "But you all need your space, and I have been thinking about starting my own spread. There is land available to the west, and I have saved up enough for a down payment." "Marcus, you do not have to leave," Nathan said, though Eleanor could see he understood his brother's reasoning. "I know I do not have to," Marcus said, "but it is time. I am 21 now, and I want to build something of my own. Besides, I will only be a few hours' ride away. You cannot get rid of me that easily." So Marcus left in early 1880, and while they missed him, it was also nice for Nathan and Eleanor to have the house to themselves with their children. They settled into new rhythms, a family of 4 now, working and loving and building their life together. The years passed in a blur of happiness and hard work. Emma grew into a bright, cheerful little girl with her mother's eyes and her father's determination. Samuel was a quieter child, thoughtful and observant, content to watch the world around him. The ranch prospered under Nathan and Eleanor's joint management. Eleanor proved to have a good head for business, keeping careful accounts and suggesting ways to improve their operations. In 1881, Eleanor gave birth to another baby, this time a girl they named Rose. She had Nathan's dark hair and Eleanor's delicate features, and she was spoiled terribly by her older siblings. Emma took her role as big sister seriously, always helping with Rose, while Samuel was protective and gentle. Life was not without challenges. There were droughts that tested their resources, cattle that were lost to disease or predators, and the constant hard work that came with ranching. But Nathan and Eleanor faced everything together, their love growing deeper with each passing year. Marcus did visit frequently, often bringing news from his own ranch, which was doing well. He had met a woman, he told them one day in 1882, a school teacher named Sarah. He thought he might marry her. "It is about time," Nathan teased. "I was beginning to think you would be a bachelor forever." Marcus did marry Sarah, and she proved to be a wonderful addition to the family. She and Eleanor became close friends, and their children would play together when they visited. One evening in the spring of 1883, Eleanor and Nathan sat on the porch as they had done countless times before. Emma, now 5, was practicing her reading inside. Samuel, 3, was building something elaborate with blocks. Rose, 2, was helping in a way that mostly involved knocking down Samuel's creations, making him laugh rather than cry. "You ever think about that day?" Nathan asked quietly. "The auction day, sometimes," Eleanor admitted. "It feels like a lifetime ago, like it happened to someone else." "I think about it often," Nathan said. "I think about how close I came to never meeting you. If I had been delayed in town, if I had not heard about the auction, if I had not had the money saved up, so many things had to align perfectly." "I believe we were meant to find each other," Eleanor said, leaning into his warmth. "Maybe not that way, maybe it would have been different circumstances, but somehow, somewhere we would have met. We were meant to be." "I love you, Eleanor Xavier," Nathan said, kissing her temple, "more than I can ever properly express." "I love you too, Nathan," Eleanor replied. "You saved me that day, but you have been saving me every day since. You showed me what real love is. You gave me a family, a home, a life worth living." "We saved each other," Nathan corrected gently. "You brought joy and purpose to my life. You made this house a home. You gave me children I adore. You are my partner in everything. I am the lucky one, Eleanor." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over the land they had worked so hard to build. From inside came the sounds of their children, laughing and playing. Somewhere in the distance, cattle lowed and horses whinnied in the corral. The smell of the supper Eleanor had made earlier still lingered in the air. This was home. This was family. This was love. Years continued to flow by like a gentle river. By 1885, the Xavier Ranch was well established and respected in the region. Emma was 7 and already showing signs of being an excellent horsewoman. Samuel at 5 had a gift for working with animals, able to calm even the most skittish horse. Rose at 4 was fearless and adventurous, keeping everyone on their toes. Eleanor and Nathan had discussed having more children, and in the fall of 1885, Eleanor discovered she was pregnant again. This pregnancy was more difficult than the previous ones. She was 30 now, and her body did not bounce back as easily. Nathan worried constantly, but Eleanor remained optimistic. "I have done this before," she reminded him. "I will do it again." In May of 1886, Eleanor gave birth to twin boys, which no one had expected. The labor was long and exhausting, and there were moments when Nathan feared he might lose her. But Eleanor was strong, and with the midwife's skill and Nathan's prayers, she delivered both babies safely. They named the twins Daniel and David. They were identical, with Nathan's dark hair and Eleanor's blue eyes, and telling them apart became a family game. Emma took charge of them immediately, declaring herself their protector. Samuel studied them with fascination. Rose was slightly put out at no longer being the baby, but she came around when she realized how fun it was to make the twins smile. The house was full and loud and chaotic, and Nathan and Eleanor loved every minute of it. They had added on to the house over the years, building more bedrooms and expanding the kitchen. The ranch supported them comfortably, and they had even been able to hire a few hands to help with the work, though Nathan still did most of the ranching himself, teaching his children as they grew old enough to help. Marcus and Sarah had 3 children of their own by now, and the two families were close, celebrating holidays and birthdays together. Eleanor often reflected on how different her life would have been, if not for Nathan's intervention that day in Fort Stockton. In 1888, when Emma was 10, she asked Eleanor about her real father. Eleanor had known this day would come, and she was prepared. They sat together on Emma's bed, Eleanor holding her daughter's hands. "Your father's name was Thomas Zimmerman. He was a kind man who loved us very much, but he died when you were very small, before you could remember him. After he died, we had nothing and we were in trouble. That is when Nathan found us and brought us here. He married me, and he became your papa in every way that matters." "Do you think my real father would be sad that I call Nathan Papa?" Emma asked, her young face serious. "No, sweetheart," Eleanor said firmly. "Your father Thomas would be grateful that Nathan loves you so much. He would be happy that you have a wonderful papa who teaches you and protects you and cares for you. Nathan is your father in every way except blood, and sometimes the heart matters more than blood." Emma seemed to think about this. "I am glad Nathan is my papa. I love him." "And he loves you so much," Eleanor assured her. "You were his first daughter even before Rose, and you will always be special to him." That conversation seemed to settle something in Emma. She never asked about Thomas again, content with the family she had, the father who loved her. The children grew. Emma became an accomplished rider and started helping train horses. Samuel showed an interest in ranching and business, often accompanying Nathan to cattle sales. Rose was creative and artistic, always drawing or making things. The twins, as they grew, proved to be mischievous and full of energy, constantly getting into trouble together. In 1890, Eleanor turned 35, and Nathan threw her a surprise birthday party, inviting friends from town and neighboring ranches. Eleanor was touched by the gesture, by the community they had built, by the life they had created. That night, after the guests had left and the children were in bed, Eleanor and Nathan lay together in their room, holding hands. "I cannot believe how blessed we are," Eleanor whispered. 5 beautiful children, a successful ranch, good health, and each other. Sometimes I am afraid to be this happy, afraid it will all disappear." "It will not disappear," Nathan promised. "We have built this together on a foundation of love and hard work. Nothing can take that away. We have weathered storms before, and we will weather whatever comes. Together, always together." "Always together," Eleanor agreed, snuggling closer to her husband. As the years moved toward the turn of the century, the Xavier family continued to thrive. Emma, at 16 in 1894, had become a beautiful young woman with several suitors, though she insisted she was not ready to think about marriage yet. Samuel, at 14, was already as tall as Nathan and showing signs of becoming an even better rancher than his father. Rose, at 12, had started teaching school in Fort Stockton, riding in 3 days a week to work with the younger children. The twins at 8 were still inseparable and still causing good-natured chaos wherever they went. Nathan and Eleanor watched their children grow with pride and a touch of melancholy. The years had passed so quickly. It seemed like just yesterday that Eleanor was standing on that auction block, terrified and alone. Now she was surrounded by love, by family, by a life so rich it sometimes took her breath away. In the summer of 1895, Emma announced that she had accepted a proposal from a young rancher named James Sullivan. He was a good man from a good family, and he clearly adored Emma. Nathan struggled with the idea of his daughter marrying, but Eleanor helped him see that it was the natural order of things. The wedding was beautiful, held at the ranch with all their friends and family present. Eleanor cried as she watched Emma exchange vows, remembering her own wedding to Nathan all those years ago. Nathan gave Emma away with tears in his eyes, whispering something to her that made her hug him tightly before taking James's hand. After Emma moved to her new husband's ranch, which was only a few hours away, the house felt emptier. But there were still 4 children at home, and life remained full and busy. In 1897, Samuel at 17 announced that he wanted to attend the newly opened agricultural college in College Station to learn modern ranching techniques. Nathan was hesitant at first, not wanting to lose his son's help on the ranch, but Eleanor encouraged him to let Samuel go. "He will come back," she assured Nathan, "and he will come back with knowledge that will help us grow even more. Let him spread his wings." So Samuel went off to college, writing home regularly and returning for holidays. He did indeed come back after graduation in 1900, bringing with him new ideas and methods that helped the ranch become even more efficient and profitable. Rose continued teaching, finding joy in educating young minds. She had inherited her mother's nurturing spirit and her father's determination. She too had suitors, but she was particular, waiting for the right man. The twins, as they grew into young men, proved to be talented musicians. They had taught themselves to play guitar and often entertained the family with songs in the evening. They talked about traveling, seeing the world beyond Texas. But for now, they were content to help on the ranch and make music. In 1902, Eleanor and Nathan celebrated their 23rd wedding anniversary. Their children threw them a party, and as Eleanor looked around at her grown and growing children, at the grandchild Emma had brought to visit, at the life they had all built together, she felt overwhelmed with gratitude. That night, alone in their room, Nathan held Eleanor close. They were both older now, Nathan at 48 and Eleanor at 47. There were lines on their faces, gray in their hair, and their bodies were not as spry as they once were. But the love between them had only grown stronger. "You remember what you said to me that first day?" Eleanor asked. "You said I was coming home with you. You said it with such certainty." "I knew the moment I saw you that you belonged with me," Nathan said. "I cannot explain how I knew, but I did. You and Emma, you were meant to be mine." "We were meant to be each other's," Eleanor corrected. "You gave me everything, Nathan. A home, a family, a love I never dreamed possible. You took a broken woman standing on an auction block and made her whole again." "You were never broken," Nathan said firmly. "You were bent, tested, pushed to your limits, but never broken." "You are the strongest person I know, Eleanor. You took a house and made it a home. You raised our children with love and wisdom. You have been my partner, my lover, my best friend. I am the one who has been blessed beyond measure." They kissed, still deeply in love after all these years. The passion was different now, tempered by time and familiarity, but it was no less real. They made love slowly, savoring each other, grateful for every moment they had been given together. The years continued to roll forward. Emma had 3 children by 1905, making Eleanor and Nathan doting grandparents. Samuel married a woman he met at college and brought her home to the ranch, where she fit in seamlessly. Rose finally met her match in a lawyer from Fort Stockton, marrying him in 1906 in a ceremony that was both elegant and joyful. The twins, inseparable as always, both married sisters they met at a dance, and the four of them bought a ranch together, determined to make their own way while staying close. By 1910, Eleanor and Nathan were surrounded by children, grandchildren, and a community that respected and loved them. The ranch they had built together had grown into one of the most successful in the region. They had weathered economic downturns, harsh weather, illness, and loss, but they had weathered it all together, their love a constant anchor. One evening in the spring of 1910, Eleanor and Nathan sat on the porch as they had done thousands of times before. They were both in their 50s now, Eleanor 55 and Nathan 56. They had lived full lives, raised 5 children who had all grown into good people and built something lasting. "I have been thinking," Nathan said, holding Eleanor's hand, "about how everything happened, about fate and chance and divine providence. Do you think it was all meant to be? Or did we just make the best of a terrible situation?" Eleanor considered the question. "I think perhaps it is both. I think terrible things happen, and we cannot control that. But I think how we respond, the choices we make in those dark moments, that determines our path forward. You chose to help me that day. You could have walked away, but you did not. And I chose to trust you, to open my heart again despite my fear. We both made choices, Nathan, and those choices led us here." "I would make the same choice again," Nathan said. "1,000 times over I would bid on you, bring you home and fall in love with you." "And I would let you," Eleanor said with a soft smile. "I would trust you, marry you, build this life with you. Every day has been a gift, Nathan, even the hard days, because we faced them together." They sat watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. From inside the house, they could hear the sounds of family visiting, grandchildren playing, life continuing its beautiful cycle. The ranch stretched out before them, a testament to their hard work and dedication. "We did good, did we not?" Nathan asked. "We did very good," Eleanor confirmed. "We built a life worth living, we loved well, we raised our children right, we have no regrets." "No regrets," Nathan echoed. As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Eleanor leaned her head on Nathan's shoulder, and he wrapped his arm around her. They had started their journey together on a terrible day, in desperate circumstances, but they had transformed that darkness into light. They had taken a transaction on an auction block and turned it into a love story for the ages. Years continued to pass with the steady rhythm of ranch life. By 1915, Eleanor was 60 and Nathan was 61. They had slowed down considerably, leaving most of the ranch work to Samuel and the hired hands, but they still rose early each morning and still sat on the porch each evening, a ritual they had maintained for over 30 years. Their family had grown exponentially. Emma had 5 children now. Samuel had 4. Rose had 3. The twins each had 2. Eleanor and Nathan had 16 grandchildren in total, with more likely on the way. Family gatherings were loud, chaotic affairs that filled the house to bursting, and Eleanor and Nathan loved every minute of it. In the quiet moments, Eleanor would sometimes think back to that terrified young woman standing on the auction block, holding baby Emma and wondering if they would survive the day. She could hardly reconcile that desperate version of herself with the woman she had become, confident and loved, surrounded by family and security. One day in the summer of 1915, Eleanor found an old trunk in the attic that she had not opened in years. Inside were a few possessions from her life before Nathan, including a photograph of Thomas. She sat on the attic floor, looking at the faded image of her first husband. He had been so young, barely 23 when he died, just a boy really. "I hope you know I did all right," she whispered to the photograph. "I hope you know Emma grew up loved and safe. I hope you would approve of the man who became her father." She heard footsteps on the attic stairs, and Nathan appeared, his hair now completely gray but his eyes still bright and warm. "What are you doing up here?" he asked gently. "Just remembering," Eleanor said, showing him the photograph. Nathan sat beside her, looking at the image of Thomas. "He was young. We all were," Eleanor said. "I was only 20 when he died. It feels like several lifetimes ago." "Do you ever wish things had gone differently?" Nathan asked. "If he had lived, if you had never been in that desperate situation," Eleanor thought about it seriously. "I wish Thomas had not suffered. I wish Emma could have known her birth father. But do I wish I had never met you, never married you, never had our children? No, never. What we have built together is precious beyond words. I would not trade it for anything." Nathan kissed her forehead. "I love you, Eleanor Xavier. Every day of my life I love you more." "And I love you," Eleanor replied, "always and forever." They descended from the attic together, and Eleanor put the photograph away in a drawer. It was good to remember, but the past was past. The present, full of love and laughter and family, was what mattered. In 1918, the world was engulfed in war, though Texas felt far from the front lines. Still, several of Eleanor and Nathan's grandsons enlisted, wanting to do their part. It was a terrible, anxious time, waiting for news, praying for safety. Eleanor found herself reliving the fear she had felt all those years ago, the sense of being powerless in the face of forces beyond her control. But Nathan was there as he had always been, steady and strong. They held each other through the dark nights, drew strength from their faith and their family, and waited for their boys to come home. And by the grace of God, they all did, scarred by what they had seen but alive. The 1920s brought prosperity and change. The ranch continued to thrive under Samuel's management, incorporating modern techniques and machinery. Emma's oldest son took over his father's ranch. Rose's children were spread across various professions, including teaching, law, and medicine. The twins' children showed musical talent, carrying on their father's legacy. Eleanor and Nathan, now in their 60s, enjoyed the slower pace of life. They still helped where they could, but mostly they enjoyed being together, watching their legacy grow. They took walks around the ranch, reminiscing about the early days when it was just the two of them and baby Emma and Marcus. They rode together in the evenings, sometimes aloud to each other, sharing stories and laughter. In 1925, they celebrated their 43rd wedding anniversary. The family threw them a massive party. 3 generations gathered to honor the couple who had started it all. There were speeches and toasts, tears and laughter. Emma, now 47 and a grandmother herself, spoke about the father who had chosen her, loved her, raised her as his own. "Papa taught me what it means to love unconditionally," Emma said, tears streaming down her face. "He did not have to love me, I was not his blood, but he chose me anyway, and that choice changed my life. He and Mama built a family on love, not obligation. They showed all of us what marriage should look like, what partnership means, what true devotion is. They are the foundation we all stand on." Nathan could not speak through his tears, and Eleanor held his hand tightly, overcome with emotion. They had built something beautiful, something lasting. No matter what happened next, they had succeeded in the most important way possible. The years moved on. Eleanor turned 70 in 1930, and Nathan turned 71. They were old now, their bodies worn from years of hard work, but their minds were still sharp and their love still strong. They celebrated quietly, just family, reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. 52 years ago, I stood on an auction block, Eleanor said during the small celebration. I thought my life was over. I thought I had lost everything. But that terrible day led me to Nathan, and Nathan led me to all of you. Every moment of fear, every second of despair, it was all worth it to get here, to this family, to this love. By 1933, Eleanor's health began to fail. She developed a persistent cough that would not go away, and her energy diminished. Nathan was terrified, but Eleanor remained calm. "We have had a good run," she told him as they sat together on the porch one cool October evening. "More than 50 years together. 5 children, 16 grandchildren, and more great-grandchildren than I can count. We have been blessed, Nathan." "I am not ready to lose you," Nathan said, his voice breaking. "You will never lose me," Eleanor promised. "I will always be with you. In the children we raised, in the ranch we built, in every sunset we watched together. Love does not end, Nathan. It just changes form." Eleanor passed away peacefully in her sleep on November 3, 1933, with Nathan holding her hand. She was 78 years old and had lived a full, beautiful life. Nathan was devastated, but he took comfort in their children and grandchildren, in the legacy they had built together. He continued on without her, though a part of him was missing. He spent his days working on the ranch when he could, playing with great-grandchildren, and sitting on the porch where he and Eleanor had spent so many evenings together. He talked to her often, telling her about the family news, about the ranch operations, about how much he missed her. In the spring of 1936, at the age of 82, Nathan joined Eleanor in death. He had been declining since losing her, and one morning he simply did not wake up. The family gathered to mourn but also to celebrate. Nathan and Eleanor were together again, reunited in whatever comes after this life. They were buried side by side on a hill overlooking the ranch, under a shared headstone that read, "Nathan and Eleanor Xavier, united in love, forever in peace." The ranch continued under Samuel's management, then passed to his son and then to his grandson. The Xavier name became synonymous with quality ranching in Texas. Emma's descendants thrived, spreading across the state. Rose's children carried on the family tradition of education and service. The twins' musical legacy lived on through their children and grandchildren. And every generation heard the story of how it all began, how a desperate young mother standing on an auction block had been saved by a cowboy who said, "You are both coming home with me." They heard about the love that grew from that unlikely beginning, about the partnership that built an empire, about the devotion that lasted over 50 years. It became a legend in the family, a touchstone, a reminder that love can bloom in the darkest places, that kindness can change lives, that choosing each other every day is what makes a marriage last. Eleanor and Nathan's great-great-grandchildren still lived on parts of the original ranch land, still told the stories, still honored the legacy. Because what Nathan and Eleanor had built was more than a ranch, more than a family name. They had built a testament to the power of love, the importance of second chances, and the beauty that can emerge from even the most desperate circumstances. They had taken a transaction meant to degrade and transformed it into something sacred. They had chosen love over obligation, partnership over ownership, family over everything else. And that legacy, that beautiful, enduring legacy, lived on long after they were gone, a beacon of hope and love for all who came after.